Welcome to This Explainer. You know that feeling when your own mind feels like this vast, completely uncharted territory? It's like a place full of hidden treasures and brilliant insights, but also treacherous pitfalls and massive blind spots. Well, today, we're going to explore that landscape together. We are treating the mind as uncharted territory, and we're handing you the map and compass to navigate it. Let's figure out how to absolutely master the art of critical thinking.
So let's dive right into this big question. Why do some people just seem to navigate life's complex challenges so effortlessly, while the rest of us kind of struggle to make even the simplest decisions? It's so tempting to look at those wildly successful problem solvers and just assume, they were born with some special gift. But looking at the research, it turns out that overcoming analysis paralysis and bad decision-making doesn't require some innate magical talent at all. It's actually a trainable muscle. Critical thinking isn't just something you either have or you don't. It's a discipline, and we're going to build it.
All right, here's our roadmap for today's journey. 1. The critical thinking mindset. 2. Unmasking your cognitive biases. 3. The problem-solving toolkit. 4. Embracing diverse perspectives. And 5. Making bulletproof decisions. Let's get right into it.
Starting off with Section 1, the critical thinking mindset, building the foundation. We've got to begin our journey by looking inward at our own thought patterns to establish exactly what this mental terrain looks like. Because before we can change the way we interact with the world around us, we have to change the way we process it. Now, this definition is super important because it completely dispels the myth that critical thinking just means being argumentative, or being that person who constantly dismisses other people's ideas. It's not that at all. It is actually a highly disciplined, objective evaluation of evidence. It's about having the ability to step back from our immediate, raw emotional reactions and just examine a situation purely on its merits. It requires pulling together information from a bunch of different places to form a genuinely well-reasoned judgment, rather than just snapping to the very first conclusion that feels good. And to pull that off, we need an evidence-based mindset. These three pillars essentially form your foundational compass, making sure you're relying on verifiable facts rather than just your personal emotions. First up, curiosity. This is that relentless drive to ask questions and constantly seek out new information. Second is open-mindedness, which literally means actively considering ideas that completely challenge your existing beliefs. And third, actually this is probably the hardest one to put into practice, intellectual humility. This is the honest, sometimes uncomfortable recognition that our knowledge is inherently incomplete and that we can genuinely learn from others, especially the people we completely disagree with.
Moving right along to Section 2. Unmasking your cognitive biases, the invisible chess players.
Before we can evaluate the world objectively, we've got to recognize the hidden traps our own brains set for us. These are your cognitive biases. Imagine you're playing this incredibly high-stakes game of chess, but half the pieces on your own side of the board are literally invisible to you. That is confirmation bias in a nutshell. You only see the evidence that proves you're already right. For instance, if you firmly believe a specific diet is the absolute best, your brain will eagerly hunt down and share articles supporting that view, while entirely ignoring or just flat-out dismissing rigorous, peer-reviewed studies that suggest otherwise. It's basically a mental shortcut that severely limits our understanding of reality.
Then there's the anchoring effect. This is wild. Notice how an arbitrary initial price drops a massive, heavy anchor into the brain? It perfectly illustrates how our minds lazily cling to the very first piece of information we encounter. Think about it. If you walk onto a car lot and the salesperson throws out a huge, totally random price right out of the gate, that number sets an anchor. Even if you negotiate them down later, your whole perception of what a good deal is has been fundamentally manipulated by that very first number.
And we can't forget the availability heuristic. This happens when we completely overestimate the likelihood of events simply because they're easy to remember or highly dramatic. It is exactly why so many of us fear a dramatic plane crash way more than a mundane car accident, even though the statistics conclusively prove that driving is far, far more dangerous. So the big takeaway here is that to counteract these biases, we have to deliberately practice mental flexibility. We need to pause and actively ask ourselves, okay, what possibilities am I just not considering right now? We literally have to train ourselves to catch our brains taking these lazy shortcuts.
All right, on to Section 3, the problem-solving toolkit, untangling the knot.
Now that we know exactly where these mental traps are hidden and how to spot our own biases, we can equip ourselves with a systematic framework to unravel the complex, tangled knots of life. When you're faced with a massive problem, this is your systematic playbook. And the absolute most crucial point here, do not skip a step. Seriously, especially step 2, because rushing to solve a problem without fully understanding it almost always leads to total failure.
A lot of us see an issue, we sort of vaguely define it, and then we just sprint right into brainstorming and implementing. But if you don't take the time to deeply gather information, cast a wide net, and break that complex problem down into its smallest individual components, you are just treating the symptoms. You aren't curing the actual disease.
Now, as you evaluate your solutions and look at all that data you've just gathered, you have to act like an intellectual detective. You've got to avoid logical fallacies, like the classic blunder of confusing correlation with causation. This trap catches so many of us. Just because two things happen at the exact same time does not mean one caused the other. Think about this. Ice cream sales and drowning incidents actually spike simultaneously. But eating ice cream obviously doesn't cause you to drown, right? The hidden variable there is just the summer heat, which naturally causes people to eat more ice cream and go swimming more often. A critical thinker immediately spots that difference.
Section 4. Embracing diverse perspectives, the kaleidoscope.
So our journey takes us outward now, to a room where every single wall is a different color. This represents the wildly diverse viewpoints we have to engage with to get a truly complete picture of reality. Just notice the stark contrast here between the weak, flimsy scarecrow of straw manning and the absolute fortified approach of steel manning. I mean, we're all familiar with straw manning, right? It's when someone lazily attacks a weak, distorted, or completely exaggerated version of an argument just because it's super easy to knock down. But steel manning? That's a real game changer. It forces you to build profound empathy and rigorously test your own logic against the absolute strongest, best possible version of an opposing view. If you can't state your opponent's position so clearly and so powerfully that they actually say, "Yes, exactly, that's what I mean," then you honestly don't understand the issue well enough to argue against it. Mastering this technique is literally a superpower in critical thinking.
Which brings us to our final section, Part 5. Making bulletproof decisions, choosing the path. We have finally arrived at the crossroads of our explorer's journey, where we have to synthesize everything we've learned and actually make a choice, even when we're standing right in the midst of uncertainty. And one of the biggest roadblocks at this stage, freezing up entirely, analysis paralysis. To avoid that, you can use a decision matrix like this to objectively score your complex choices against your most important criteria. When you have competing options, trying to just weigh them all in your head is a total recipe for anxiety. By actually writing them out and scoring them based on clear variables, like cost, time, and how well they align with your core values, you take all that hazy emotion right out of the process. You're giving yourself clear, actionable data to work with. But of course, you're rarely ever going to have all the facts, right? And that is okay. You can rely on these specific tools to manage that uncertainty and prevent the totally disastrous effects of group consensus. Use scenario planning to map out your best and worst case futures. Use the 5 whys, which is literally just asking why 5 times in a row like a curious toddler, to drill past the surface level of a problem straight to its absolute root. Use the Eisenhower matrix to figure out what is actually urgent versus what is just a distraction. And never ever underestimate the power of playing devil's advocate. Purposely appointing someone to break up the harmony of groupthink and stress test your plans is absolutely crucial.
Now, keep in mind, even the absolute best, most calculated decisions can still lead to unexpected setbacks, which is exactly why your critical thinking journey has to be anchored by emotional intelligence and a rock-solid growth mindset. That is the true definition of mental resilience. It's your ability to withstand life's storms, to bend without breaking, and to emerge even stronger from adversity. When a brilliant, perfectly reasoned plan hits a massive roadblock, resilience is the only thing that stops you from just throwing the entire map away. Because resilience isn't just about white-knuckling it or toughing it out. It's really about this deeply rooted self-awareness that allows you to bounce back and actually thrive under pressure. Think of yourself as that mighty oak tree in a storm. You need roots that run deep into your core values in your newly built critical thinking practice. If you can start viewing a failure not as some huge threat to your self-worth, but simply as, well, just new data to evaluate, you become practically unstoppable. So as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this provocative thought to chew on. How are you going to apply this new critical thinking compass tomorrow to step outside of your mental comfort zone? Will you actively seek out a totally opposing viewpoint and try to steelman it? Will you catch yourself falling for the anchoring effect next time you're buying something? Because true growth happens the exact moment you actively decide to rewire your own brain. The map is officially in your hands. Now it's time to start exploring.